We often think we know how the world works, but how can we distinguish between personal beliefs and what the evidence actually supports? Scientific understanding is not a given. It is something that must be earned through observation, experimentation, and constant revision. Humans are remarkably good at being wrong. We naturally look for patterns and make assumptions to fill in the gaps. While these cognitive habits have their uses, they can also easily lead us astray. It is a vital reminder that intelligence does not make us immune to error. Nature operates independently of our beliefs, confidence, or authority. Because nature doesn't grade on confidence, any scientific explanation must eventually be tested against the realities of the physical world. Science is not just about a brilliant individual finding the right answer. It is a systematic process designed to correct ourselves. Through questioning, gathering evidence, and applying criticism, science is built to expose our mistakes. The scientific method is rarely a straight line. It is a series of loops where researchers constantly return to earlier steps, like observing or questioning, to refine their understanding. Real science is an iterative, looping process. Science often begins with a simple, that's interesting. Whether observing the night sky, studying biological organisms, or analyzing sensor data, unexpected observations are frequently the first step toward a new scientific opportunity. Broad curiosity becomes a powerful tool once it is transformed into a measurable research question. By asking how one thing changes in relation to another under specific conditions, we create a path toward gathering concrete evidence. To move forward, we must define our terms precisely. We translate vague concepts like hot or fast into measurable quantities like temperature and velocity. Science demands clear, measurable language to function effectively. By defining our variables, the independent, dependent, and controlled ones, we provide structure to our inquiry. These variables are what ultimately turn a general question into a formal experimental design. In science, an unexpected result is not a failure. It is information. Whether your prediction was correct or not, the outcome provides value. Often, the disagreement between a prediction and an observation is the most important result of all. A good hypothesis allows us to make a specific prediction. If a condition changes, we expect a certain observation based on our model. This creates a clear framework that reality can then challenge. While a prediction tells us what to expect, a hypothesis attempts to explain why. It combines our existing knowledge and logical reasoning with our observations to form a testable explanation. To be useful, claims must be testable. Instead of saying something is better, we specify how input power relates to output torque. By creating testable claims, we generate measurable consequences that can be verified. A crucial part of science is asking, what evidence would change my mind? A robust scientific claim must expose itself to the possibility of being proven wrong. If a claim is structured to survive every outcome, it hasn't truly been tested. Scientific models are essentially hypotheses as well. By simplifying real systems and applying assumptions, we build mathematical models that generate predictions. Because these models make specific claims about reality, they can and should be tested. When performing an experiment, consistency is key. By intentionally changing one factor while measuring another, and strictly controlling all other conditions, we ensure that our results reveal meaningful comparisons. Controls act as our baseline, showing us what would have happened if we hadn't interfered. Without a control condition, it is impossible to determine the true impact of the variable we are testing. Controls give meaning to change. Our own expectations can unintentionally influence how we measure, observe, and interpret results. Where it is possible and appropriate, blinding the researcher or the participant can help reduce these bias effects and ensure objectivity. To combat hidden biases that might arise during testing, we use random assignment. By ensuring participants or samples are placed into groups randomly, we minimize systematic differences. Far from being careless, random assignment is a rigorous method to ensure fair comparisons. Relying on a single example is rarely enough to draw a scientific conclusion. Individual observations naturally vary, but as our sample size grows, we begin to see the underlying structure of the population. Always record exactly what happened, not what you expected to see. Documenting methods, conditions, equipment, and any unexpected observations is vital. Accurate record-keeping ensures that your work can be reviewed and understood by others. It is important to remember that raw data is not the same as evidence. Numbers only become evidence when they are placed in context, verified by sound methodology, and analyzed for meaning. When looking at large datasets, visualizing your results with a graph is often much more effective than reading a table. Graphs help reveal trends, clusters, and outliers that might otherwise remain hidden. While graphs help us visualize data, we must remain critical of how they are constructed. Changing axes, ranges, or windows can significantly alter our perception of the data, meaning even a mathematically correct graph can still be misleading. Variation is a fundamental aspect of any measurement process. Whether we look at the mean, the spread, or potential outliers, repeated measurements will naturally vary. Understanding this variation is essential to interpreting your results. A core challenge in science is distinguishing signal from noise. Is a pattern genuinely significant, or is it just the expected variation? Statistical tools help us make that judgment by comparing observed results against expected fluctuations. Honest science includes an acknowledgement of uncertainty. Because no instrument measures with infinite precision, every measurement should ideally include its uncertainty, reflecting the limits of what we can know for certain. Remember, correlation is not the same as causation. Just because two things change together doesn't mean one causes the other. Establishing causation requires rigorous investigation to rule out other factors or simple coincidence. Statistical significance does not automatically equate to practical importance. A result might be detectable with statistical methods, but that doesn't mean it is useful, large, or meaningful in a real-world context. Even in an age of powerful software, the human element remains irreplaceable. Computers can perform calculations, but humans must choose the assumptions, define the analyses, and construct the final interpretation. A result becomes more convincing when it survives repeated attempts to replicate it. Whether by the original research team or an independent lab with different equipment, repeating the experiment is essential. One experiment is just the beginning of a conversation. It is important to determine if a result holds true under different conditions. Will it work at a different temperature, scale, or location? A result can be entirely real and valid, while still having a limited scope of application. Peer review is a process of scrutiny, not a certification of absolute truth. Experts in the field examine the methods, evidence, reasoning, and limitations of a study. Criticism is a vital feature of the scientific process. To maintain trust in scientific findings, we must show our work. By being transparent about methods, data, assumptions, and limitations, we provide others with the information necessary to trace our reasoning and understand exactly what we did. It is a reality of science that published work can sometimes be wrong. Errors in methods, statistical mistakes, or even bias can slip through. Publication marks the beginning of the evaluation process, not its end. Changing your conclusion when the evidence changes is not a sign of weakness. It is the scientific method working as intended. When models are updated by new, better evidence, our understanding of the world evolves. Scientific knowledge is built in layers, moving from initial observations to replication and eventually to broader applications. One paper rarely creates absolute confidence. Instead, we rely on the convergence of evidence from many sources. Artificial intelligence is becoming a powerful tool in the laboratory, assisting with data processing, pattern recognition, and hypothesis generation. However, it is vital to remember that AI output is not the same as empirical, experimental evidence. Science is, at its heart, organized curiosity combined with robust error correction. Through a continuous loop of questioning, testing, and revising, we provide ourselves with constant opportunities to identify and correct our mistakes. Science does not promise that we will never be wrong. Instead, it provides a reliable way to discover when we are. By observing, testing, and refining our work, we continue to sharpen our understanding of the world.